Reiterate, a reflection is a transformation that flips the figure over a given line. This line is called the line of reflection, and for 8th grade, we will only be reflecting over the x-axis or the y-axis. Okay? All right, I gotta move this up. All right, get rid of that black. So, what does that say? What does that mean? Do you remember from yesterday? What's that little symbol? Triangle, and that's how you say it. She wasn't even here. Triangle, ABC, is being reflected over the x-axis. So I have this triangle, ABC, on my coordinate grid, and we are going to flip it over the x-axis. Now, when it gives you an axis, what I'd like you to do, I give you strategies. Some of you use them, and you're really successful. Some of you don't. And the ones that don't are sometimes successful, but not consistently. So, it's your choice. But my suggestion is once you know what line you're going over, you make it darker. Okay? So that you know that's the way I got to jump over that line. All right? I got to flip over that line. It's like doing a backflip over the line. All right? So, to reflect over this line, do you notice that A is on the line? Okay? So we can't move A because it's on the line of reflection. So we would leave A and just mark it A prime. Okay? Because it's on the line of reflection. I'm going to go to B. And how we flip something is we count how far away we are from the line of reflection, and then we count that same distance in the opposite direction. So for B, I am 1, 2, 3 away from my x-axis. So now I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 in the opposite direction, and I find that's B prime. Okay? So I have to do the same thing with C. 1, 2, 3. So now I'm going to count in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3. And I get C prime. And there is a flip. Can you see how that is physically? It is flipped just like my hand. My thumb is down here at the bottom. If I flip over, where's my thumb now? At the top, isn't it? So it's flipping over the x-axis. All right? So now we need to look at our new coordinate points. So what is the new coordinate point for A prime? Did we move it?
No.
So it's the same one, negative 3, 0. And I'll explain something in a minute about that. What about B prime? Where is B now? Negative 4, positive 3. So negative 4, positive 3. What about C prime? It's at negative 2, positive 3. So negative 2, positive 3. Okay, let's ignore A for a minute. We'll come back to A. Look at B and B prime. Look at C and C prime. What has happened?
The y-axis doesn't have a
The y coordinate has changed signs, hasn't it? And C, the same thing. The y coordinate has changed sides, hasn't it? So, writing a general rule for flipping over the x-axis, it's leave the x alone and change the sign on your y coordinate. Now, you are so used to that meaning negative. But what this means, remember yesterday I told you you need to understand geometry language, okay, to be able to do geometry? That means opposite sign. So we are going to put an opposite sign on our y, and I'm going to separate those a little bit. I got them a little bit too close so that you can see the difference. Okay? Opposite sign. Now, why didn't we change this 0? Because we changed all the other y's. Why didn't that 0 change? It's on the axis, yeah. What is it about 0? Is it positive? Is it negative?
No.
That's why. You can't change a sign when there is no sign to begin with. A 0 is neither negative nor positive. 0 doesn't have a negative value, does it? It doesn't mean you're in the hole, but it also doesn't mean you have a positive value. So if you have no value, then you cannot change the sign, can you? Okay? We don't write -3 plus 0 or -3 minus 0, do we? We just write 0. So that is why it does not change the sign on the 0. Okay? All right. So it says, tell me more about this figure. Is it congruent or similar? Explain to me how you know. So let's look at those two figures. Are they the same size? Are they the same shape? Now the orientation, remember we talked about orientation yesterday? The way it looks is different, okay? But they are the same shape. They are the same size. So that makes them what? Congruent. Okay. Let's go to the next one. This one says triangle ABC is reflected over the y-axis. Draw the image triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So this time we're going to go over the y. So I'm going to darken my y. Okay. So I know I need to move it here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to count the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3. And I end up right here, A prime. Okay? Then I've got C. 1, 2, right? 1, 2. So here is C prime. And B, 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And I end up with B prime. I'm going to draw my triangle. Sorry, my triangle is not very pretty. Okay. So, what are the coordinates of A? Remember, you always start at the origin. I'm counting over how many? 3. Am I going up or down? No, I'm staying right here, right? So it's 3, 0, right? Okay, what about B prime? Where's B? 4 and... So 4 and -3. Oh, I made a mistake over here. Shoot. Put those negative signs right here, people. Right here. Do you see those? Oh, can't get this right. Okay. All right. What about C? It's at 2, -3. So 2, -3. What do you see that changes?
The negative.
The x coordinate changed the sign, didn't it? So the general rule for flipping over a y-axis is change the sign on the x, leave the sign on the y. Okay? Remember that this means what? Opposite sign. Okay? So now, can we summarize by having we know what the rule is. Let's write it again. For the x, when we flip something over x, what happens here? The x stays the same, and we change the sign on the y. What about when we flip here? You change the y. Ooh, sorry. Change the x. And leave the y alone. So, it's just the opposite. You go over x, you change y. You go over y, you change x. All right, let's practice. I've got triangle ABC. Okay? So, it says reflect over what axis? X. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to darken X. I'm going to count to my line of reflection. I'm going to start with A. How far am I away? 1. So I have to count the other direction. 1. Okay. How about B? 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I need to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have B prime. C, 2. So I count 1, 2. And I put down C prime. Draw my figure. Okay, let's see if we can do it without even looking at the graph. What's the rule? We changed over the x-axis. We leave the x alone. We change the sign on the y. That's correct. So we should be able to fill in points without even looking at the graph. What is the x going to be for A prime? 4. We're going to leave it alone. And what's the y going to be? -1. What's the B prime going to be? We're going to leave the x alone and change the sign on the y, which is going to give us what? -4. How about C? 1 and -2. Okay? All right. One more. We're going over y. We're going to practice y one more time. So I'm going to darken y. Okay? And what I'm going to do is this. Let's write the rule first. What does it say the rule is? Change the x. Keep the y the same. So, if I come up here, do I even need the graph? What am I going to put for x prime? Or y, A prime? -4. And what's y? 1. What's B prime? -3 and 4. What about C prime? -1 and 2. So there again, same rules. Across x, what's going to happen? The x is the same, change the y. What about across y? Change the x, leave the y. All right, I'm going to come back up here because I should have done this, all right? Let's count this one more time together, all right? C is how far away? So we're going to count the opposite direction, put a dot, and do C prime. B is how many away? 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and I've got B prime. A is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have, losing my ink, A prime, my pencil. I'm going to draw my figure. So all I've done is flip, okay? Now I want to keep these rules sitting here, and I want to show you something, okay? All right, let's say This is your coordinate grid. Okay? Are your x's positive or negative here? What about your y's? Okay, so I have a positive x, positive y here. What do I have here? Positive y. Okay? What about here? What about here? Okay. So we just said, the rule says, if you are going over x, we leave the x the same, we change the y. Do you see that anytime I go over x, what's happening? The sign on the y is changing. Do you see that? Okay. Do you see how here you got a positive y? If I flip over the x, I have a negative y. If I start here and I flip over the x, I have a positive y, but the x are both positive. Do you see that? What about over here? If I flip over, I change my what? Y. My x stays the same. So when you go over x, change y. When you go over y, we said change x, didn't we? That's what's happening when you go over. Here it's going from here to here. It changes the x, not the y. What about here to here? Does it change the x? Yes. Here to here, it changes the x, not the y. So, this works for any reflection. Okay? You can put your notes away, and we will start our practice tomorrow.